was able to wrangle these two old friends and get them on the air. They've made a fantastic new record together. It is their second record. It's out now. It's called Black Light, White Noise. And I'm talking about Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen, and they join me live now. Adrian, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I know you're in England, so I appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to call in here. And before we go anywhere, I just want to say very sorry to hear that you lost your home there in the LA fires. Are you recovering okay?
Well, kind of, yeah. It's a terrible thing, but a lot of people lost their houses, and it's just a hazard of living in that location. You just get fires every single year. It doesn't seem that there's nothing that anyone could do about it. It seems so. That's the way it is. But thanks anyway.
Yeah. So, are you living in England now, or have you relocated there? Is that what your plan is?
I live part-time in LA, about 3 months a year, 3 months in England,
right.
3 months on the road with Maiden, and then 3 months wherever.
Right. Well, yeah, very sorry to hear that. And I bring that up, though, because your proximity to living near Richie Kotzen is kind of one of the reasons why this pairing happened and how you guys got to know each other. And with that, I'll welcome Richie to the show. Richie, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. How you doing, Adrian?
Hi, Richie. I'm all right. Yeah, good.
And Richie,
Cool.
you obviously you don't live far from Adrian, which is how you guys first kind of came together, I think. And thankfully you did okay with the fires, right? I mean, you had a scare, but you didn't get any damage there, right?
Yeah, we had a much worse scare in 2018 with the Woolsey fire, which was pretty much originated where we are, and we couldn't live here for a good month because all the power lines burned down. There was no electricity, and we had to do remediation to the house. But this time it was we got lucky with the direction of the wind, and I could see all the flames, from where we live. Could see them, but we got lucky this time. But like Adrian said, it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. And the fires actually, because, they played a role here because you guys actually delayed the release of this record a little bit from its original release date. Adrian, was that due to the fires and just you guys trying to deal with what you were dealing with there and not really being ready to promote a record yet? Was that why that decision was made?
Yeah, definitely partly to do with that. Yeah. Pretty much exclusively, unless Richie knows anything I don't.
No, that's right.
Rich, you want to jump in?
No, yeah, that's right. We don't. What happens here? Not to make the whole thing about the L.A. climate, but what happens here when you get the heavy winds, they turn where I live at least, they turn off the electricity. So when this was kicking off, for most of January. We didn't have power, so it's off for 3 days, and it's on for a day, and so on and so forth. So with all that chaos happening, it just made sense just to kind of, hold off, and once, things get a little more under control, then we can look at, talking about the album.
Well, the album is out now. Go ahead, Adrian. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, in the weeks leading up to an album release, there's a blizzard of emails going back and forth between me and Richie to the management, and there's artwork and mixes and edits and all this stuff, and it's difficult to do. It's amazing how much you depend on the internet.
Yeah, no doubt. Richie, you guys have been on together before for the first record. Obviously, the second record is out now. I love the record. I love what you guys are doing together. But for the audience that doesn't know the backstory here, in a nutshell, tell them how you and Adrian first connected. What was beyond the logistics? Because when Adrian's in LA, I know you do live close to each other. But beyond that, was it just you bump into each other at the local convenience store, or how did it all go down that you ended up pairing up with Adrian?
Well, I was out. This is many years ago, many years ago. I mean, more than 10, maybe 15. I was out in L.A. with a friend, and we were looking for something to do, and we ended up at the Sunset Marquee, and there's a bar there called the Whiskey Bar. I think they changed the name now, but we were hanging out, and my friend started talking to who ended up being Adrian's wife, Natalie. And so we were talking music, and my friend had played some of my stuff on his phone. She liked it and said, "Oh, my husband's in the band." And then, she said, "Iron Maiden." And then, I was like, "Oh my God, who is it?" And then she said, "Adrian." So, being the fan that I am, I was, so, okay, well, when can we meet? And so obviously we ended up meeting up and became friends. And then basically what led us to making music together was many years later. At a party, there was a jam session, and it was just a lot of fun. I think it ended up in the press because there were some other people there that. And so, we decided, hey, let's just try and write some songs. And then here we are.
Adrian, how familiar were you with Richie and his work? Because, I mean, he's done a lot of things musically, a lot of eclectic things too, very different in some regards, and a lot of solo records and band stuff and jazz fusion and all these different things. Before you met him, were you very familiar with him as a singer and a writer and a player?
I was, because someone played me the Motherhead album years ago.
Right.
Someone brought it to a barbecue. It's a guy called Pat Cash, who's a tennis player. He was a fan of Richie's. And he brought it to the barbecue, and I thought it sounded great, But I hadn't. I was out of touch with what Richie was doing, but my wife turned me onto it. It was a live thing from South America, I think, that you did, Richie. That she was.
Yeah, it's so ironic because I just
you were wearing a shirt. I remember that.
No, the video. I think I lost you here. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. we got you.
Oh, good. It's funny because the video that my friend played I just posted it a few weeks ago on my Instagram. Somehow it came up, and I thought, oh wow, reminiscing, and I shared it. So if anyone's curious to know what it was, it's a video. I'm in South America. I'm wearing a red shirt, playing a white Strat, and that video I just had posted on my Instagram about. I don't know, a week and a half ago for whatever reason. But that was the video and the audio that I played that caused this whole meetup. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Adrian, did you, for people that are big Maiden fans and certainly big Adrian Smith fans, the hardcore people will know you have done records and bands on the side of Maiden. They might not have been like very front and center, at least here in America, but I know I had you on for some of the stuff over the decades when you've done it. Were you at a point Maiden is obviously such a big time consuming thing for you, but were you at a point where you were kind of like interested in maybe doing something on the side again, or was it really facilitated by the fact that you felt you had some musical connection to Richie and you thought he'd be good to work with? Or did you kind of want to do that anyway? You're just looking for the right person?
Bit of both, really. Bit of both. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for sort of bluesy kind of rock. Grew up listening to Free, Bad Company, Humble Pie, so I've always had it in mind to do something like that. Like you said, I've done various projects over the years, but this was just a kind of a labour of love for that music, and it's great to have. I always wanted to have a partner who sang as well, and we could share vocals. That's always been my kind of. I like that idea, and I don't think anyone's really doing it. I mean, there's a few bands that have done it over the years, but. I just think the collaboration, it turned out to be interesting. We didn't know if it was going to work. We just got together and it just clicked. And I think the first session we sat down to write, we came up with the song Running, which is on the first album, obviously. And Scars, we had that idea. That was just in the first day. And I thought, well, I think we got something here,
And Richie, where were you at in all this? Like when obviously you being a fan of Maiden and being a fan of Adrian's, it was exciting, but that doesn't necessarily immediately mean it's going to work. And obviously it did work, but I mean, how did you feel going into it?
Very excited. I thought it was. I thought that we were going to be able to connect on the sort of, Bad Company, Paul Rogers sort of thing that we both love so much. Humble Pie. We've talked about that. So, and the reason why I figured it would work was because I could tell when we were jamming that we had a common ground. That was really the thing that kicked it off, is when we got together. I said earlier when we were playing, jamming in that room, it was like obvious that, oh, okay, we're kind of coming from the same place here on a lot of levels. And so going in, when he came over to write, for the very first time, I figured it was going to go well. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was like, oh, well, let's see, who knows? I kind of went into it thinking, okay, I think something cool is going to come out of this,
The other thing that I think is interesting for you, Richie, from a guitar playing standpoint, is you guys have different styles, but it really works and it does complement and each the playing. But the thing from your perspective, Richie, that I think is interesting is like knowing your career as well as I do. It's not been very often that you've worked with a second guitar player. I mean, most of the stuff you've done, you've been the sole guitar player, whether it's Winery, Dogs, Poison, Mr. Big, your solo stuff. So you've not really done that a lot. Was that something that you always wanted to do a little bit more of?
No. I mean, not really. I mean, I never thought about it that way. That's why I'm saying no. I mean, I never sat there and thought, oh, gee, it would be really cool to blah, blah, blah. It sort of happened. And the only time I can remember as we're sitting here that it ever happened was when in the early 2000s, I had a band called 40 Deuce, and I was the lead singer of that band. I played a little bit of guitar, just, minimal guitar. And so that was like the only time that I can remember where and we were writing together, me and the other guitar player. So that was the only time I can really remember doing that. But, I don't, it's a weird thing with me. I never really sit around and think, oh, if I could work with this or that or do this or that. I kind of just keep everything open so that if something comes along, it could be a guy playing bagpipes, in the back of the canyon, and maybe I go for a walk with the dog and suddenly we, stumble upon each other. I don't know. I don't really think in terms of, seeking out a collaboration. But, like you can see, this one really works. I think we're making great music. And already, in my mind, I'm starting to think, what can we do in the future here? So I think this is something that is going to be around and last, and at least from my perspective, and I'm happy that we're doing it.
And Adrian, from your standpoint as a guitar player, I mean, it's a little bit of the opposite, because your whole tenure in Maiden, you've always had Dave Murray at your side, and of course, in the last 25 years, you've got two other guitar players. You're on stage with Yannick up there too. So this is, for you playing with Richie and working with him as the other guitar player. What's that experience been like? Do you guys push each other a little bit, do you think? Do you bring different things out of each other as players?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I've always worked with another guitarist, because I actually started off my music journey as just singing, because I couldn't play, but I wanted to be in a band. So Dave Murray was my best buddy, and we grew up, and when we were 15... He could play guitar quite well, so I said, let's do a band, I'll be the singer. So that was me and him, and I learned to play the guitar as I went along. So I've always pretty much, I mean, I had a band called Psycho Motel in the 90s, and I'd never played without another guitarist before, but I did that, and I actually really enjoyed that, because it's a different kind of thing, like a power trio thing. It's just that can work really well. But, with the writing with Richie, we just bounce off each other. And because we both sing, I think if you just play the guitar and you sit down and write, it's a bit limiting. But because we both sing, we've both got melodic ideas. So the ideas are just flying around when we sit down and we build a song like brick by brick. You know, I have a part, then Richie will feed off that, and he'll come up with something, and then and so on and so on. So yeah, I mean, so I think we do push each other a bit.
That was the band I was trying to think of, Adrian, when you said about. I remember ASAP, but Psycho Motel, because I remember when back in the day I had you in my studio in New York for that record when it came out, and it's probably, what is that? Probably 30 years ago already, 25 years ago, which is crazy.
Because, the songs on the Psycho Motel album were in the wrong order. I remember that. And we were
and I think you discovered that when you were on the air with me, if I remember right.
It's a bit embarrassing, actually. I don't know why I mentioned it.
I forgot about that. Now that you bring it up, I've got to find that tape. That was funny. I remember trying to figure out where the songs were on the CD because they resequenced it wrong. Oh, man, it was Spinal Tap at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely recall that now. Richie, tell everybody about this record coming together. The first record was kind of like, you did it, if I recall, kind of around COVID and stuff at that point. With this record, what was the differences in making album number 2? Obviously, you're more connected at this point. You're more comfortable with each other, writing and playing. But tell me about putting this one together as opposed to the debut.
Right. So the debut was actually finished before COVID fully kicked off, because I remember sitting with Adrian discussing what was happening, and we were really confused and didn't know what was going on. And Adrian and I were specifically talking about Adrian's plans because he was going to take a trip somewhere, I believe, in the South Pacific or something like that. And so I remember the conversation being, what if I should just go back to England or this or that? So the album was recorded before the whole COVID thing kicked off. But, interestingly enough, the actual process of how we work and how we record, I don't think was really any different from album to album. I mean, Adrian, if you have any other insight on that, but to me, it felt pretty much the same. Only there was some of the work that we had done in Turks and Caicos. But if you take that out of the equation, the way we write, the way we approach recording and present the ideas and develop them, I think is pretty much identical.
Adrian, you want to jump in there? I mean, did you guys go ahead?
Yeah, it's just the way we work. We have a way of working. It wasn't really discussed. I turned up at Richie's one day, and you sit down with guitars. It's quite organic. We both sit there. Sometimes we'll just noodle around until someone comes up with a riff, and someone's got an idea for a vocal line over it. So it's just it's music's quite often about having the right personalities fitting together, to make good music. And I think that's what we got.
So, Richie, when you make these records with Adrian, I imagine, there's so many records now that I talk to people and it's like, well, we never were even in the same room, and he was there and I was in this country and we just sent files back and forth. But being the way you guys play off of each other with the guitar and the vocals and the collaboration this is, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you really do have to do this kind of sitting in the same room looking at each other, right?
Oh, we don't necessarily have to have full eye contact, but being in the same room helps. No,
you know what I mean. Actually, I mean, being together.
No. I'm just messing around, man. Yes. We are together, and it's just such. I prefer working that way. We are in the room together. Writing and figuring out the lyrics. There was one point. There was a song or two, but definitely one that was done remotely that ended up on our EP that we had released. We had a 4-song EP, and there was one song that was a remote session. But the album, we were together. For this one, we were together. I think Adrian did go back to his house and do a few overdubs. But, the writing, we need to be in the same room so we can say, oh, we're having trouble with this lyric, and we got to have a conversation. And out of the conversation, then we resolve, the lyric and where the song's going. And, this chord is, needs to, we have to be together. It's so much better to write when we're together,
Adrian, how do you guys, and I know you've probably gotten this question before, but when you listen to this record, or even the first record, I mean, it really is right down the middle in terms of like the balance between the vocal trade-offs and the guitar playing trade-offs. It's one of the things that makes it so cool and so unique. I mean, it really is a perfect collaboration. But when you go into this, I mean, how do you all? What is the conversation like to say, yeah, you know what, you should take this verse, and you should take this verse, or you should take that solo, and I'm going to go first or second, or I'm going to do this many bars or that many bars? Like, is that because you produce the records yourselves too? So how does that conversation go?
Well, we have a saying like we both want to be represented on each track, So quite often it will decide itself, or when we're writing, sometimes I'll have a riff and I've just got an idea for a vocal over the top of it because I've been sort of living with this riff for a few days or something. So, and quite often Richie will say, he will step out of the studio and I'll just sing whatever I feel if we got a backing track. And, if there's anything I can't do, I mean, Richie comes in and fills the gaps in. But it usually works out, sort of 50-50. And, I like that. I don't hear too many people doing that these days, or ever really, because having two singers in the same band could go horribly wrong, we managed to make it work for us, I think it's interesting. I think Richie's obviously got more range than I have, so he does cover quite a few of the choruses and stuff. But I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, you've heard the term, no doubt, LSD, lead singer disease. You guys could just cancel each other out if one of you accused the other of having that.
I like that.
Yeah. You know what? I because I've done a bit of singing in my time, I understand a guy who's up there on his own without an instrument, especially on the road. You're playing 5-6 nights a week. Your voice is taking a beating, and you've got really nowhere to hide. You can't hide behind a guitar. So I kind of understand some of the mental pressure. But playing guitar and singing is slightly different. Because you've always got the guitar to sort of fall back on,
Yeah, and Adrian, I'm sure, and I just saw Maiden on the most recent tour. I mean, you also have the luxury of being on a stage with a guy who is seemingly ageless, a guy who has, beat throat cancer and is still up there in Bruce Dickinson singing remarkably well and is one of those guys. He's running around the stage, hitting everything perfectly. I mean, it defies explanation what Bruce is doing at this point in his life with what he's been through as a singer. That's got to marvel you being on stage with that guy every night.
Yeah, I mean, he's a force of nature, isn't he? I went to see him when he played in London with his solo project, he delivers. Delivers every night. It's quite incredible. He looks after himself as best he can on the road. But to be doing that, and a lot of people these days are tuning down. I mean, Richie and I do tune down the semitone, but Bruce won't do that. He wants to play it, as it was, But power to him. I think he's going out on the road in August in America, Bruce, with his project. So people will get a chance to catch him.
Yeah, he did a couple shows here, and I had him on very briefly for the new record, actually. But he's doing a more extensive run here, and a lot of people are looking forward to that. And also the other thing, which Adrian, your voice comes into play in this huge, is having seen Maiden recently. I mean, the backing vocals, the choruses are just incredible. So what you guys are doing in that area is just amazing as well. And I know you guys put a lot of work into that also.
Harmonies, not really. I mean, when I first joined Iron Maiden, I suggested doing 3-part harmonies, and it didn't go down too well. But I mean, we do a bit of harmony singing, but it's not really a big feature of the songs. But I do enjoy, Wasted Years is obviously a lot of fun for me. That song seems to have endured as well, which is nice.
Oh, yeah, it's massive. Richie, going back to this record, in addition to what you guys did, divvying up guitar and vocals and obviously writing and everything, you also played bass and drums on a lot of the record as well, right?
Yeah, I did.
And your wife plays on some tracks, I know, and is in the videos as well, right, Julia?
Yeah. So I think Julia ended up on 5 songs. I'm on the other 5. And then I played drums on the record with the exception of 3 songs. But, it's kind of a product of how we work and how we write. So, we sort of have this situation is once we're running that the whole studio is just set up. The drums are mic'd and anything can be recorded at any time, and it can be changed at any time, and it just creates a very smooth way to be creative. And it comes down to the creativity, really, is why it's like that. And so, there's a song perhaps where I go down there and lay down a guide drum pass, so we have something to play to. And then as we start playing to that, suddenly things start coming to life. It starts sounding inspired, and we don't really want to unravel that. So I go back, maybe, replay the drums, or maybe add some fills or change some things. And before you know it, we've got a finished song. And once the speakers are reproducing what we hear in our imagination, at that point, it's a wrap. There's no, because you can stay in that process of recording till the end of time, but, you have to move on. And so the way you move on is, once you hear it and you're excited and looking forward to sharing, you're done. So it's not like, because you can, or maybe add some fills or change some things. And before you know it, we've got a finished song. And once the speakers are reproducing what we hear in our imagination, at that point, it's a wrap. There's no, because you can stay in that process of recording till the end of time, but you have to move on. And so the way you move on is, once you hear it and you're excited and looking forward to sharing it, you're done. So it's not like I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I have to play this, play that, or the other. It's just kind of a product of how our creativity works and how we get from point A to point B.
Adrian, the title of the record, which is Black Light, White Noise. Obviously, it's the title of the album, but it's also 2 separate songs on the record, and it's the 2 songs that you've made videos and released as singles so far. Is there a bit of a theme there? Is there a bit of a concept there? Tell us about that title and the idea behind it.
Well, the song Black Light actually started out life as something completely different. We finished it, and we sort of looked at each other, didn't think it was as good as the other songs on the album. So we rewrote it, we stripped it down, we discussed, like Richie said, we sit around throwing ideas around, we were writing lyrics, come up with the idea for Black Light, thought that was a really strong title, and then sort of wove the lyrics around that theme. Same with White Noise, really. I think Richie came up with that title, and then we managed to spin a story around that. Then I played the album when it was finished to one of our managers, Dave Shack, who's been very active in getting this project going as well. And the album finished, he said, "Well, you got to call this album Black Light, White Noise." And I just thought that was great, So that's how we came up. It was actually his idea. So and it just seemed to sum it up. I liked it.
And it ended up being the two lead tracks from the record, and two of the highlight tracks.
Yeah, that was a coincidence. Yeah.
Another track that I really love on the record, Richie, is "Dark Side." I think that one's that one was an immediate favorite of mine. What's the backstory on that one?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones as well. And Adrian brought that one in, and he had the chorus and the verse. I believe I came up with a pre-chorus and a bridge, and we put it to bed. But that's a song that stands out to me. It's actually one of my favorite too. I love the storyline and the actual sound of it. It definitely comes in to a territory that I probably wouldn't have gotten into if left to my own devices. So I think it's a special song for the record for sure.
Yeah, it's the record to me. Like, I really love the first record, but I think this is the natural, next step in progression. And it just, I just love what you guys did on this. I mean, across the board, sounds great, playing's great. It's just, it's right up my alley of the stuff I love, and I know you guys love as well. I'm curious about this. I won't keep you guys much longer because I know it's late for you, Adrian. So thanks for the time. But I'm curious about this. This is the second record from Smith Kotzen. And, I know you guys, it's different because you're not new musicians and new to the scene and all that. But second records are always so pivotal when it comes to an artist's career, especially an emerging newer artist. So I'm curious, like, Adrian, I know you did stuff before Iron Maiden, but for the second record you ever made that the world knew about you was Number the Beast. Well, regarded as one of the greatest records ever made, certainly in the metal world. I want from each of you, I want to get your recollections of making like your second big record. So Adrian, for you, going into Number the Beast, coming off of Killers, it's a little bit of a different thing because you're in this band that's really starting to ascend at that point. I imagine you didn't feel a tremendous amount of pressure, although you're still relatively the new guy, right, at that time?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it was my second album. It was Iron Maiden's third album,
right?
Number the Beast. And what's up?
I think we lost Adrian second.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. You're talking about Number the Beast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember we did it in London. Oh, God, it's so long ago. A place called Battery Studios. It's where we recorded Killers. I remember Steve Harris. I stayed with Steve Harris when I joined the band because I did a crash course in learning the set. And I sat with him most days just going through songs. And then one day he said to me, "Oh, check this out. I've got this song." He didn't have a demo or anything, but he just had the idea for Number the Beast, and he did the intro, and he sort of sang the vocals and that, and he played that to me in that very, very rough state. I remember that, and that turned out to be, one of the big Maiden songs, obviously. Yeah, I mean, Number the Beast. I mean, just
what a second record for you.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that it was, I mean, when you're making a record like that, again, Maiden is on the ascend, certainly, but, still not a household name at the time it was being made. Did you have any idea that you were creating and being a part of a record that would, decades later be viewed as one of the great records of all time, or was it just another record for you that you were making at that time?
Well, no, I'm never that blasé. I mean, yeah, with the song Number the Beast, Run to the Hills, when we heard that back, we thought this is a single, Run to the Hills, like a genuine kind of single with three-part harmonies on the chorus. Bruce stacked up the vocals, catchy chorus, So yeah, he probably did get the idea. This could be something special.
And Richie, when I go, do I have it right? So if you're so very different story for you because you're a kid, you're making instrumental records for Shrapnel, and you make a record, it comes out, it does, it puts you on the map, and then you're going into your second record, which, if my calculations is right, in your catalog was Fever Dream, right?
Yeah. My second record was Fever Dream, and so I really was at that stage, like you said, really just a kid getting my footing. So, you have a situation where, you're writing songs as a 17-year-old kid that are instrumental, and they end up getting worked up to put on a record that you record at the age of 18. And then, that comes out at the beginning of 89. And then suddenly I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't necessarily want to be an instrumentalist. I had that revelation relatively quick. And so, because I had been writing vocal songs prior to that with my band that I had at the time. So, and we actually made an EP, a 5-song EP with songs that I wrote that had vocals and singing and all that stuff. So very quickly I realized I got to do a little bit of a course correction here. And the second record, I sang on it. And, thanks to Mike Varney giving me the confidence boost that I needed to sing my own songs, because up to then, I was singing, but I had a band with a lead singer and all that stuff. So, I did a quick, course correction, and my second record, I started singing. And so that's kind of, the trajectory that I went on. And then, here we are. But, that's kind of what happens when you start making records very, very young. I got signed, out of high school. My friends were going to college, and I went to San Francisco with a record deal. So, interesting circumstances, I suppose.
Yeah, and going back to the singing thing, to me, with these records you guys are doing together, anybody that knows you guys know your ability as guitar players. You're both great players. You're both super established as guitar players. But I think the really cool thing about what you guys are doing is the vocals. Richie, more and more, especially since the Winery Dogs, more and more people got to know you as a singer. But Adrian, I mean, for you, your voice and the way you guys complement each other and the vocal stuff is so cool. And there's a lot of people that I've played Smith Kotzen for, and they're like, that's Adrian singing? We had no idea he had a voice like that. So that's got to be a really cool thing for you, especially considering earlier in the interview you said that when you first started out, you were just a lead singer. You weren't even playing guitar. So it's kind of got to be a little full circle for you, for people now just really discovering your ability as a singer.
Yeah, well, like I said, I started off down that route, and I continued from the age of sort of 15, 16, probably 17, 18, started doing gigs in the pubs and bars in England until I was about 24. I was singing and playing guitar in bands, and I stopped doing it when I joined Maiden for obvious reasons, because they're very good singers in the band, So it's nice to pick it up again. I did a bit in the 90s. I had some bands in the 90s, which I just did kind of for fun, really, where I went out and I played and sang. I'm happy doing it. It's sort of in my blood, and a lot of my sort of role models or idols were singer guitarists like Steve Marriott and people like that, Pat Travers, Johnny Winter. I loved all those guys. There's just something very cool about getting up and playing guitar and singing. But I'm back in the saddle a little bit. I'm sort of studying it a little bit and learning a lot. Of Richie as well. I mean, he's far more accomplished singer than I have. He's been doing it way longer than I have. But it's nice to be able to express myself that way. Yeah, for sure.
Final thing, and I'll let you guys go on this. The obvious question here becomes live shows, and I know, as we mentioned, on the Maiden side of things, Bruce is going out and doing a run with his band. I know Steve has British Lion stuff, but I know, Adrian, you guys have this Run for Your Lives tour, which there's a lot of excitement about doing some of the older material. So I imagine finding a window in the schedule to do Smith Kotzen live is a bit challenging for you right now.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the first part of 2026. Hopefully, we can do some dates then, because I'd love to play some of these new songs live as well. And we had a lot of fun doing the last run we did. We only did 12 shows, I think, but it was a lot of fun. I love to do it. I love playing in the clubs, although I wouldn't turn my nose up at playing bigger places, but wherever we play, I'd love to do it. So hopefully beginning of 2026.
Richie, what are you going to do in the interim? What do you have planned for the rest of the year, given that Adrian's going to be tied up with Maiden and other stuff?
Yeah, well, I've got a local show in Los Angeles on the 24th of May at the Whiskey with my trio, and we also are playing the night before that, May 23rd, in San Juan Capistrano at the Coach House. And those two shows are going to prepare us to go to Japan the first week of June. We've got 3 shows in Japan, and then I'll be back home, so it's a quick little run, and then it's looking like I will do another North America tour with my trio in the fall. That's being built so I can stay active and not forget how to play and keep myself ready so that Adrian and I can kick off next year with some Smith Kotzen shows. One thing I wanted to add is that we had the opportunity to do an acoustic set, a short set with a question and answer. There's a small theater in the Grammy Museum in downtown Los Angeles, and we went down there and played with full band, acoustic, unplugged, and we were plugged in acoustic, and it was great. It was really fun, and I felt like coming out of that, it opened up a new avenue for us to do, not only the expected live, amps behind us, loud, full drum set, but the option to be able to go in and kind of strip down and really hear the songs, with the acoustic guitar. I thought that was a nice experience and something I'd like to do more of.
Well, the stuff begs to be played live, so hopefully you're able to do that. I'll let you guys go on this, and Adrian, I don't need, and I don't need Rod yelling at either of us. But what I can't let you go without you telling the audience what they can expect from this next Maiden Run for Your Lives. Have you rehearsed yet, or is there anything you can share with the Maiden faithful about what they can expect with this tour? We know it's going to be the early records. We also know it's significant because it's going to be the first with the new drummer, with Simon Dawson. I don't know if you've played with him yet and rehearsals have begun, but is there anything you can share without Smallwood going crazy?
Well, we're going to have to think very, very carefully here. Yeah, it should be great. Yes, a new set list. We've been doing the Legacy thing for the best part of 3 years, so it's a completely new set. I think the fans are going to absolutely love it. Yeah, and we'll be starting rehearsing in a couple of weeks, and just getting ready for it and going out again, and can't wait really. That's all.
You speaking? Yeah, I know. I know. I can't. Trust me. I know Rod far too well, so I don't want to put anybody.
After the first show, it'll be all over the internet. Everyone's going to know the set.
Of course.
Everyone's going to know what it looks like. Everyone's going to know the fuck ups we made. So, that's just the way it is now. But it'll be special, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, didn't if I have it right, didn't Nico play on a song on the first record? Didn't he play on one track on Smith Kotzen?
Solar Fire, a song called Solar Fire.
Right. He's available now. You guys know if you go out with Smith Kotzen, I heard Nico's available.
There you go. There you go.
There we are. Next time.
I'm in South Florida at the moment, so when I get off the air,
All right.
I might go pay him a visit and have some ribs at his place.
Go and have some ribs. Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to see you.
Adrian, last thing, do you remember? I know I said last thing 3 times, but it's just funny. Do you remember when you did my TV show and we talked about Nico's ribs? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. I think it was just
What
before
happened?
we went
Tell
on air,
me,
wasn't
'cause
it?
I don't remember.
It's nothing major. It's just
I think you'd call it soul food, wouldn't you? But you wouldn't want to, eat ribs every night. But the ribs are very good. Rock and roll ribs in Florida. That's Nico's place.
yes, it's wonderful.
I heard
It's
he's
great.
just rebuilt his. He's put a new PA system in the restaurant, and he's got his drum kit in there, the stage, and I think there's going to be some action in there.
Yeah, I'm actually very close. I'm in Florida now because I'm going out on a cruise tomorrow. I'm very close to where he is. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get there. I just don't have the time on this trip. But I love him and I love going to see him there. Richie, in a nutshell, it's nothing major. But Adrian came on. We were talking about Nico's ribs, and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "But you might not." Adrian said something like, "You might not want to eat ribs every night. Not too good for you, whatever." Adrian got worried that it was going to come off like he was dissing the ribs.
I see.
Which he wasn't at all. He was just stating a fact that you don't want to eat greasy ribs every night of the week. Might not be the most healthy thing. As we all get older, you got to be aware of that. That's all. It was a public service announcement.
Yeah, there you go. It's more of a health concern, if anything. Yes.
Right. Well, listen, guys, congratulations on the record. Again, it's out now. It is called Black Light, White Noise, Smith Kotzen, and a couple videos on YouTube to check out. Hopefully live shows next year, and look forward to what you guys are both doing individually and collectively. Adrian, thanks for the time, and say hi to the guys. And Richie, thank you as well, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye.
Cheers, Richie. Cheers, bye.
Cheers, Adrian.
Thanks,
Bye.
Adrian. There they go. Adrian Smith, Richie Kotzen. Did about almost 50 minutes with those guys. That was great. It's great hearing them together. It's great hearing what they're doing individually, and always great to talk to both of them. And it's really good stuff. If you like bluesy hard rock, very organic sounding and great playing, great singing, great songs. I mean, there's nothing not to like about that. The second record, I think, even exceeds the first record. Smith Kotzen. It's out now, and check it out. All right, thanks to Adrian. Thanks to Richie.